So this truck is $98,000. This Ford Lightning is $80,000. There's two more Ford Lightnings right here and two more over there. There's two more on the other side. So this dealership has 6 that I can see just right here. Ford made a massive, massive bet on all these Mach-E's, and guess what? It was a losing bet. So one thing that you'll notice when I'm walking around this Ford dealership is that you're not going to see any 4-door sedans. And this is one thing that I think is a big problem for Ford, not just Ford, but for Stellantis and for GM too, all the big 3. All they have is a lot of these big trucks, a lot of these big SUVs that people can't really afford right now. So I'm here at Ford today because they just reported their earnings and they were not good. They missed both on the top and the bottom line, and they did not provide guidance. This is uncertainty, and uncertainty is something that Wall Street absolutely hates. So obviously the stock sold off. So check this out. This is a full row of Mach-E's. And you can go to any Ford dealership across the country at this point, and you know what? You're going to see a bunch of these Mach-E's just sitting there. And this problem that you're seeing right here, this is not a dealership problem. This dealer right here, they're not charging any market adjustments, not any crazy bogus fees on top of these Mach-E's. They're selling them for MSRP. This is a Ford problem. This is not a dealership problem. And Ford actually missing their earnings surprised me. I thought they would actually put together some pretty good numbers because of the pull forward in demand from a lot of these dealers preparing for the strikes, and because of the strong fleet numbers, right? And that was the story for GM when they reported their earnings, and I really thought that Ford would follow suit. And their ICE division and their fleet division numbers were okay, but they weren't enough to actually cover up the massive losses that they were going to be taking from the EV space. And one of the big reasons why they said that they were actually pulling their guidance was due to the UAW strikes, and they weren't really sure what the effect was going to have on their numbers going forward. But they actually just got a deal done with the UAW, and they knew that this deal was coming. So really, they could have provided some kind of guidance, because now they don't have to worry about the strike. So I really think that they're just using the UAW as a scapegoat at this point, because they really don't know what's going to happen with their numbers going forward, because demand's not very good, and they're losing so much money in their EV space, and this big growth engine that was going to be their EV division is really not materializing. So one thing that you'll notice when I'm walking around this Ford dealership is that you're not going to see any 4-door sedans. And this is one thing that I think is a big problem for Ford, not just Ford, but for Stellantis and for GM too, all the big 3, is that they're going away from this lower end of vehicle that, you know what, as the economy gets worse, this is what people need. They need cheaper transportation. We'll say what it is. It's a cheaper car. That's what they need. And you know what? If you want that, you can't come to Ford. You can't go to GM. You can't go to Stellantis and actually be able to find something like that. You know where you got to go to? You got to go to Toyota. You got to go to Honda. You got to go to Nissan. So I really think that the big 3 have really dropped the ball, and they're going to lose a lot of business because they're not going to be able to provide what the consumer actually is going to need going forward. All they have is a lot of these big trucks, a lot of these big SUVs that people can't really afford right now. So last quarter, Ford actually lost $1.3 billion in their EV division. Yeah, I said it right. In a quarter, $1.3 billion. And now they had actually raised the estimates of what they thought they were going to lose this whole year to $4.5 billion, and that was previously $3 billion. So that was a revised number up. And they still missed that revised number up. So this is a massive headwind for Ford going forward, because they know that they were going to lose money, but they couldn't anticipate how much more they were actually going to lose. This was a big miss in even their calculations, and this is another thing why their stock is going to sell off, because this EV division is costing Ford way more money than they could ever anticipate. So one thing that Ford has stated is that the demand for these EVs is just not there like they thought it would be, right? And GM is saying the same thing. So across the board, what we're seeing, if we are to believe these OEMs, is that, you know what, people just don't really want these EVs. But the Tesla bull would actually argue that no, the EV demand's there. We're seeing this massive growth in people that actually want EVs. It's just that Ford and GM, they can't put together a product that people want, and it's too expensive. So it's really Ford and GM's problem, and it's not an EV space problem. So now here are the different scenarios. One, yes, EV demand is there, but Ford is not capable of actually making a good product, and one that people can actually afford, and that's really bad for EV going forward for the growth space, because they're going to continue to have to just pump money into this EV division to actually figure out how to make a product, one, that people can actually buy, and two, that they are going to want. So the other scenario is that, yeah, maybe people don't actually want these EVs, and the early adopters are really the only ones that are pushing to buy them, in which case that the slice of the pie is much smaller than what a lot of people were actually anticipating that it would be. And in this case, you have all these Mach-E's, you have a product that even the small percentage of car buyers that want EVs won't buy. Okay, this is a 2023 GT E all-wheel drive, and the MSRP on this is $72,000. There's two more Ford Lightnings right here and two more over there. There's two more on the other side. So this dealership has 6 that I can see just right here. And it's not been that long ago that, you know what, you couldn't find a Ford Lightning anywhere. And when you could find it, dealers were adding 10, 20, I've seen $35,000 market adjustment on top of a Ford Lightning. And now what are you seeing? You're seeing these Ford Lightnings. You can go to any Ford dealership and there's going to be a Ford Lightning, at least one, probably 3 to 4 on their lot. And you know what? No market adjustment, because these dealers cannot sell them. And you go back not so far ago and Ford was saying, you know what, our order books are absolutely just hammered with people wanting these Ford Lightnings. And Ford kept screaming to its shareholders, there's so much demand for these EV trucks. And you know what, it's not here, at least for the Ford Lightning, because either they're too expensive, they're junk, or the demand for EV trucks is not there. Either way, it's a very bad sign for Ford going forward for their EV truck division. So this Ford Lightning right here has a price tag of $80,000. And it's been a real big problem for Ford. They've even had to actually shut down shifts to produce these Lightnings because the demand's not there. And they're really going to slow down. Here's another Ford Lightning right here. They're really going to slow down, and another one. They're going to slow down the production of these Ford Lightnings because, you know what, they're finding that people don't really want them. And this is somewhere where I feel like Ford has really dropped the ball, because if Ford is going to actually make a name in the EV space, it's got to be with one of these. It's got to be with a truck. And you know what? The Ford Lightning didn't do it. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So one thing that actually was really good for them in this quarter was that the fleet sales continued to be strong. And this is something that is to be expected. We saw this with GM too. The reason being is because there is still this big pull forward in demand from companies who still haven't gotten their fleet vehicles that they've needed, because supply has been so short in the last few years. And now they're loading up because the vehicles are actually available. So these right here are what a lot of these fleet vehicles look like. They're always white. They're the XL models. Here's a 4-door right here, and I can usually tell now, I'm good enough to see they're usually special order. MSRP on this one's $44,000, and this is just a 2-wheel drive truck, but F-150 2023. There you go. That's what a fleet looks like, and they've got quite a few of them. But I really believe this pull forward in demand from these fleet vehicles is going to be short-lived. They're not going to be able to have this over the next few years, because eventually these companies will load up on these fleet vehicles, and then they won't have to order for another 2 to 3 years. So I really believe that that this boost in all these fleet sales for these OEMs is not sustainable. One reason I actually came to this specific Ford dealership is that I dropped by here 2 days ago to check prices. That's what I do. It's my job, right? Is to show you what prices are on vehicles. But they had 2 Mavericks, and the 2 Mavericks that they had, they didn't have any market adjustments. I haven't seen any market adjustments here, by the way, so this is good on this Ford dealership. And lately it's been almost impossible to find a Maverick on a Ford dealership, and when I see them, they have like a $10,000 market adjustment. So I just talked to a salesperson, and these two Mavericks that I saw 2 days ago here, they were already sold. So literally they got them in, they marked them at MSRP, and then they immediately sold them. So that's what you're seeing with what I'm talking about. People wanting these more affordable sedans. They're wanting more affordable trucks. When these dealerships actually get them, they're selling them immediately. But stuff like this, these $90,000, $80,000 trucks, they're going to sit because people can't afford them. This is not a dealership problem. This is a Ford problem. I repeat, this is not this dealership's problem, because if they get these Mavericks, if they get these vehicles in that people can actually afford, guess what? They're going to sell them. So one thing that I will say that I'm noticing for the market in general is that this dealership was one that I've seen quite a few market adjustments. I don't like them, you know that. But walking this whole lot now, I have not seen any market adjustment across any one of these trucks, any one of these SUVs. Still seeing some add-ons I'm not crazy about, but we can just see that these dealerships, they're not able anymore to actually charge these market adjustments on these vehicles and still sell them. So it's a great thing for the market to see a dealership that has had some market adjustments. Now they're moving with the market. They're taking the market adjustments off, and that's showing that, you know what, prices, they are coming down. They're not really are there. There's wind coming in, big time wind. Let's try it over here. Much money in the, nope. So I'm here at Ford today. Let's see here. Let's start that. No, let's start this over.